Hi friends, so we have Kalpesh with us today. He was rank holder in the recent exam. He has secured AIR2 in the recent exams. And this video is just to get views of Kalpesh on his preparation strategy and future plans. First of all, congrats Kalpesh. Welcome to our channel.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for having me here.
So do tell me, Azhar, what was your initial thoughts when you saw your results? So what went in your...
Yeah, there's a prologue to it actually. So I actually got a call from the president of ICI and he told me that you secured an All India rank. I actually went a little numb for 2 to 3 seconds because I could not understand what was actually happening and was that even real, because it did not seem like a Delhi number or a landline number. So, I mean, I could not believe that it was an All India rank too, because till a few moments before the result, I was like, I want to just pass the exams and just somehow clear this exam. But then when I heard it is an AR2, I went on. Then the results were out in the next 10 minutes and I checked it was an All India rank too. So, I mean, still is to think that an All India rank to every day going to bed and then getting up, it is a different, because 2 days back you were just a student and today you're qualified with an All India rank. I think the feelings I can't express in words, I can't put in words, but it really feels great, and seeing that also my parents are really happy. So I'm very happy to get to this AIR2.
I think everyone is proud around you, man. Your family, your teachers, everyone is very proud about the hard work and the efforts you have put in. But how has been the feeling after the results? I think 2 days, 3 days have passed, and how is the effect after that? What change do you see in your life after the results?
Yeah, the first thing is the moment even the results came out, I think the institute publishes 1, 2, 3 in its website, and even before I could tell someone, I was actually receiving calls on the other end constantly. Like it was 10 seconds and you get a single call, like one call per 10 seconds on that basis. And not only me, even my parents were actually getting calls from their side also, because I think a lot of people would have seen that in the internet, or it would have gone viral. So I was getting a lot of calls, so I did not really get a time to sit with my results to even think that has happened till the end of the day, because lots of people were calling. I mean, I did not have food that day because one, it was too much overjoyed to even have the hungerness to go and eat something. So lots of calls. So I think the next day is when I sat down with myself, and I was, in fact, I did not remember what was the individual marks in each subject that single day, because I just knew it was an AR2. I passed. That is all I knew. And I mean, it's a once in a lifetime feeling. People start recognizing you everywhere, and they start congratulating you, because I mean, it's kind of a very different feeling. People start appreciating you, and they start, talking to you and asking you for all the tips and how did you prepare. And like I did not get a time to sit with my results. And 2 days later on, I sat down, saw my results, and then I saw whether I have to apply for copies and all these things. So it took a little bit of time to sink in actually.
Did you sleep that day, man?
No, it was hardly a sleep. I think by the time I went to bed, it was almost 3 o'clock in the night. So, but then I could not again sleep because it was 3 in the night. I was constantly getting calls, and then by the time I could even sleep, it was around 5 in the morning. So I just had a 2 or 3 hours sleep. I mean, that is something you would have before your exam. I was having it after my exam. So it was kind of nice to have that feeling to sleep 2-3 hours for the first time, I think, in my whole life, that okay, you're happy to sleep 2-3 hours. It was one of those moments.
I think the reality would have at least sink in by now that your hard work has gotten to the stage where you are in now. So what I have also done is I have spoken to few students of mine, and the objective of this meeting was to get your views, because hearing it from the successful ranker also helps the other people, because there are a lot of people who are seeking motivation and inspiration at this stage, and I think there can't be a better inspiration than you at this stage. So thanks for that, and thanks for joining us. So I'll directly get into the questions which many of my students have asked, and I think the first question I had is, did you really prepare for a rank, or how did it happen? Do rank holders prepare for a rank, or does it happen because of their preparation they are able to reach that stage?
So I'll tell you my background. I did not have a rank in my CPT, that is year 12 foundation. I did not have a rank in my intermediate as well. So I did not think of a rank for the moment I went into exam leave. So in fact, I got an inspiration from another ranker the last attempt, November 22, when they said that they did not have a rank, but they just wanted to prepare like a rank holder. So looking at that, I just thought one thing: let's prepare like as if we are aiming for a rank, so that even if we fall down, we'll at least pass the exams. So I ensured that every time when I studied, I studied as if if I study this, will I be able to get a rank? Was all the preparations. But after writing all the 8 exams, I did not expect a rank, or I did not even have the expectation that I want to get a rank. But my very simple request was give me 400 to pass, and that is what expecting even the day before result. So the preparation wise, I made sure, yes, I wanted to get a rank. I had that mentality to get a rank, but even during the 4 months, it kind of faded away eventually little bit, because seeing the vastness of the subject, when I wrote one of the mocks, it did not really go well for me. So yes, in the back of my mind, yes, let's prepare like a rank, but the expectations are not of a rank till the date of results for me.
But at least not even after your exams, because your exam should have gone really well, looking at the marks which you have secured.
No, I actually, in fact, one of my exams, paper number 7, direct tax. Usually what happens is I call up my friend after the exam. We just have a short chat about like 15 minutes about how do we prepare for the next exam, how would we go about it. But paper number 7, when I wrote my direct tax, I did not, I don't know if I under-evaluated myself, but that was the paper by far I felt the most difficult out of the 8 papers, and I felt it did not really go according to my expectations. So that paper, I don't know, but that paper did not went well for me, and I was kind of let's just pass this exam. And every exam there would be one question. I think in SFM also, one question I was not able to attend. I think a particular 10 mark I was not able to attend it completely. Like I wrote, but the answer was kind of not giving me a satisfaction that it is the right answer. So kind of these things told me, okay, fine, we have done well, we can clear the exams, but not after the exams. I was not expecting a rank, like a single digit rank. I was never expecting a single digit rank, but eventually things really turned out positive. Probably I ended up under evaluating myself. I don't know if that could be the case. I have to just check my answer sheets, and I probably should see what has happened.
In fact, one unique thing which I noticed in your mark sheet, and I was in fact, I noticed it 2-3 times. I was also a little surprised. All your scores were very close to each other in all the subjects. I could see everything around 75, 76. One of them was around 80. Because normally people do have something called as a favorite subject or something where they end up scoring more. So tell me what really went in, because giving equal importance to all subjects is very critical. But I think you are a live example of how you have done that. How did you manage to give equal importance to all the 8 papers?
So, one thing I made sure that I respected all the 8 subjects which I was studying, because I know institute will definitely make one paper or 2 paper in a group which is going to be difficult. And if you're giving a bias toward a particular subject and that paper turns out to be a bit difficult, then I think you are in a dodgy situation. And whereas the paper which you think is the difficult and it turns out to be easy, then you are not able to capitalize on that. So because I've been seeing the past, there is no predictability in which paper is going to be tough. So I ensured even on subjects which were little weaker for me, like the audit or direct tax, which I felt was a little challenging for me as a student, I ensured that I am giving it an equal respect. And also the subject where I felt interesting, also I made sure that I'm not losing out on that. I wanted to, even for paper like 60, which is an elective, people take it a little lighter. I ensure that I at least read it 3 times before the exams, because I want to ensure if the paper comes easy, then we'll have to be in a position to leverage it to around 80 to 90 marks. So it was all I was thinking. And I did not want to lose on any opportunity if the paper comes a little easy. That is what actually going back of my mind. So be it easy or tough subject, I ensure that every subject I give the equal importance, and I never thought a subject has to be more important or less important, or institute is going to make this paper easy or that paper easy, because I felt every paper could be difficult, every paper could be easy. So if it is easy, let's capitalize. If it's difficult, let's get a stage where I can pass that exam.
During this journey, at any point of time, because you were saying you had to prioritize on 8 subjects and other, you focused on all. was there a stage where you felt that it's not happening, I'm not able to do it, I'm finding it very difficult, do I give up at this stage, do I do something different? So was there any stage like that for you in your preparation where you were feeling that I need a break, I need to move out of this course for some time, or I need to do something else?
Yeah, so you're talking about the 4 months of exam leave or
during the journey, whatever the journey happened for you.
Yeah, so I think it really happened to me. I wanted to move out of this course actually at one point of time. So I cleared my CPT. I also enrolled myself in college simultaneously. So I am not sure whether I was going to clear CPT. Fortunately, I ended up clearing CPT. Simultaneously, I also enrolled in college. So I have to now go to intermediate classes in the morning, college in the evening. So my day used to start at 5 in the morning. 5, then I used to come home at night at 8 o'clock. So I mean, there itself was a little training to sit for 14 to 16 hours a day. I was actually spending my whole life in classroom. So this happened for the period of 9 months because the intermediate classes generally go on for 9 months. So my first year of college, I could not do anything apart from just being in classroom. So, and even after that 9 months, I had to sit with my books from say February to the April because I was appearing for my intermediate. So at that point of once I wrote my intermediate exam, I was like, this could not be my life. I can't be sitting in classrooms for 18 hours or 14 hours every single day. And the only notion was if my intermediate group one which I wrote, if it does not clear, I'm going to quit CA. I'm not going to pursue. But fortunately, I cleared. But still, my mind was not ready to accept the fact that I can't again study. So I took, in fact, a break from CA. I actually skipped an attempt. I skipped, if I'm not wrong, I skipped November 18 attempt. I skipped it because for two reasons. I want to I participate in other things in college because that was the prime reason I joined in college. So I skipped the November 18 attempt because May 19 attempt was the first time when they brought in MCQ. So I was like, in inter there are two subjects called audit and your EISSM. So if at all MCQ comes in, I'll be a little happy to write that rather than writing 100 marks of theory. So, and I also wanted to explore the other opportunities in college. And then eventually that decision really turned out well for me. I ended up participating in lots of other events and being part of a lot of clubs over there. So, I mean, it's a happy decision when I see in the retrospective. But yes, there was a point where, in fact, so I spoke to my parents and they're like, you've come this far, try. If it does not work, then you can consider quitting. And I think if it were not for that advice, I think I would have left CA. But then eventually it worked out. And there was obviously a patch where I did not want to because it was taking a toll on me mentally. But then it was all worth it if I see it in the hindsight.
Glad you continued because I think we are also thankful to your parents for the right advice to you and glad you continued with your CA journey. Also, now I'll get into the CA final journey where you have on one side Articleship is there and the other side your classes are there. So you tell me, how did you first plan your classes? And the students want to know is how did you plan your classes? Did you do your classes before your study leave? And what did you do during study leave? How many revisions did you do? And your mock test. These were the 3-4 questions which are clubbed together on your preparation side. So how did you go about this?
I'll tell about how did I plan out my classes. Number one, my initial thought, even when I was joining my Articleship, I was like, first 5 to 6 months, I'm not going to touch any of the classes or any subjects. Two reasons that now I've come into a new professional career or new professional journey. I want to first get into the firm and understand how the audit or how the whole experience works around, because you can't be doing two things at the same time. So I took time to gel in. So once during 5 or 6 months, so from the 7th month, I started taking classes. My only aim was let's finish class, let alone revision, before exam leave. So initially the plan was to take classes for all the 8 subjects. Then when I spoke to some of my seniors, my peers, they told me not every subject requires class. Then I trimmed it down and I made sure I'm taking only classes for subjects which I need. So effectively, I ended up taking classes for FR, SFM, direct tax, indirect tax. I think these are the classes I ended up taking up. So 4 or 5 classes I took. I made sure that I'm finishing those classes. So I finished it around, if I'm not wrong, December mid. So from December mid to December end, I ensured I took up one of the theory subject like audit. I just read it before, just not like even studying, just gave a reading one, so understand what is the content of the syllabus. So that was the whole plan. So I ensure that I'm completing the classes before exam leave, plus the classes, let alone the revision, so that I'm in a position to start my sprint in the 4 months. So we got the leave of 4 months from January to April. So my mindset was very simple: 2-1-1. So first reading I wanted to get for 2 months, second reading 1 month, third reading 1 month. That was a very clear plan from my side, because I knew that apart from that, if I put for 3 revision, it would be something very unrealistic. I would end up compromising on the quality of the reading. So it was very simple. So from there, I back calculated the number of days I would require. So 4 months, I ensured it is around 120 days. I knew that 10 days, around 14 days would go for mock exams. So 7 exams I had to write. And 6 days I kept it as buffer in case anything happens. So 100 days I had to complete 3 readings. So the effective technique is 50, 30 and 20. That is how I split my whole strategy, because you need to understand this 20 will have to go into 14, because you get only 1.5 days for each subject, 14 or 12 days if I'm not wrong. So I made sure that I'm having a linear regression towards the time I'm taking for each subject. So that is also 50 days. Around February 20, I ensured my first revision is getting completed. Then I gave a mock from February end to the March first week. Then March first week to March end or April first week, I ensured that I'm giving my second mock and first revision. And till the April first week and till the April end, I was doing my second revision. And then, so I appeared for 2 mocks. So 1 mock was I did from an institute's first MTP. There is where I realized that you'll have to evaluate yourself. I felt I was not good at evaluating. So the second mock, I purchased it from outside, and where they evaluate and give us. So essentially, I did 1 reading, 2 revisions, and I gave 2 mocks before the exams. And apart from that, the 1.5 days you get for each exam.
Understood. And how did you plan for your 1.5 days? Because that's a doubt which many students have, that during your preparation for the 4-month time, you would have visualized those 1.5 days, saying what you are going to do. So what did you plan and how did you manage that 1.5 days?
Yeah, so in fact, I like a lot of seniors told me that 1.5 days is ultimately how you should be approaching the whole exams, because it is the time which you're going to get for studying. I tried to do it in the first reading. It was not really fruitful, because in the first reading you need to understand the vastness of the whole subject, get an understanding. So my advice would be, in the first reading, do it as per your planned revision, because once you complete your first reading and when you're doing your first revision, then you will have to think about 1.5 days, because initially when you're starting itself at 1.5 days, I think you might be a little confused about how will you plan for 1.5 days. I tried doing it in the first reading, it did not work out. So in the first revision, when I was doing the first revision, I ensured that the questions which I feel is very easy, or it's a very basic question which might not be tested in the exams, for practical subject, I struck off those questions. For theory, I started making notes. I started marking questions, bundling the questions, like these are all the same questions. So I just ensured that these are the questions. If I read one question, it's going to cover the same type of 3-4 questions. So the first revision, essentially I started planning for 1.5 days, and it became more clearer in the second revision, that is in the month of April. So I would recommend students to first focus on the first reading. The 1.5 days you can approach in the first revision, but it's only a recommendatory. To feel you can do it, you can definitely do it in the first reading as well.
And is there anything like a number of hours we should study, or when you were doing your 4 months of study leave preparation, was there anywhere in your mind that you should study for 12 hours, 14 hours, 18 hours? Was there anything like that?
There was no concept of number of hours per se. I did not focus too much on that. I mean, there used to be a body clock behind the mind that you're studying for 6 hours. So when I told you that I planned it backwards for the 4 months, I planned it in a such a way that I had a schedule for each week, that each week's schedule had a plan for each day. I ensured that I'm completing this particular day's task and then go on to sleep that day, because I mean, even if it is taking 10 hours a day, I made sure I'm completing that. If it is making 12 hours a day, I made sure I got completed. If in case it got completed in 8 hours. So what I used to do is, tomorrow's plan, what is that? I would just take the easier part of it, read for 2 hours or 1 hour and ensure that. So it was never that you had to study for 14 hours, 16 hours. It was never in that plan. My average hours, I would say it would range around somewhere 9 to 10 hours per day it would range. but my main focus was on completing the day's plan. So I think planning the next day before you go to sleep is very important, because you cannot be studying very randomly the very next day. You need to have a plan, and that plan should be a part of long-term objective of how much revisions are you going to complete, or by when you are going to complete is what I made sure. I just made sure I'm completing the task rather than focusing on time.
In fact, you told me that you completed your classes before the study leave period started. So when you completed your classes, along with that, were you studying on a daily basis apart from the videos, or did you do face-to-face classes, or was it more of Google Drive classes?
Yeah. I took everything Google Drive classes, because for two reasons. It gave me flexibility to watch as per my will. Number two is that I could watch at my own speed. So a lot of class I used to watch at 1.2 to 1.5x, because that would end up saving a lot of time. And plus, when I joined my articleship, there was around 9 months, there was actually a lockdown in the city. So the first class which I took with Google Drive actually went well. And I don't know, but I'm kind of person, if I start with something, I have the urge to finish it. So it is not like that 2-3 days once I'm watching classes and the next day I'm not watching it. So when I took a class, I'll watch it daily. So that used to be my very simple pattern. So I used to keep my morning fixed, and I used to watch classes for 2 hours. So if I watch at 1.2, eventually one classes would get over. And if the question about if I separately study, so for SFM alone, what I would say is the homework which you gave, I used to do that homework alone, because the classes was it was around only 160 hours. So I was very happy spending the rest 40 to 50 hours in doing homework. But for any other subject, I would say no, I did not study apart from the classes, except for the last 20 days where I studied audit, self-study, which I proactively did, because I did not touch audit till then. But apart from SFM only, I used to do your homework, and I think there, if I used to get it out, I used to get in touch with you. But apart from SFM, there was no particular subject which I specifically touched, because I ensured 3 classes, if I did it properly, I think it should help. And also, I was also having my articleship, so I think both gelled in a little well, because it was not little possible for me to come up every day and study. So yeah, that is how I planned for it.
So basically, completing classes and giving your best for 4 months. That was more like a strategy of success for you. Whatever worked really well for you.
Yeah.
And in this period,
I just want to tell one thing. So this worked for me. If you think, if you have time, I would recommend you guys to study 1 or 2 hours in the last 6 months before you're going to study leave, is what I would recommend. Because sometimes, there might be too much pressure in the 4 months. Is what could happen. In the last 6 months, you can devote 1 or 2 hours on the weekdays, and 3-4 hours on the weekend would be a humble suggestion from my side, so that there would be less pressure in your exam leaves.
And because you touched upon this fact that you completed all your classes ahead, there's this confusion with a lot of students who have asked us also. I do my classes now and I write my exams 2.5 years later. How do I remember so many things? Because just as you were saying SFM, you would have done SFM maybe in the month of, let's assume, April 21, and you are going to write your exams now. So when you come, doesn't it look new to you at that time when you open the book? So how did you plan that?
Yeah, so it definitely looked new to me. To be very honest, it did look real. When I opened my SFM valuation of security, I did not remember what was Gordon's formula or Walter's formula. It looked pretty honestly to be new for me. But the only thing is, you will have a vague understanding of what the subject is. You will have a vague idea of what the concept is. See, the thing is, if you're going to not watch for that particular reason, that I'm not going to remember anything after that, you can either do 2 things. One, as I said, you can proactively start reading 1 hour every day, like at the end of the day. Or, at the end of the day, if you're going to defer your class for that reason, then only you're going to end up piling all those classes up, and you eventually will not finish any subject. So it is not about remembering. I think even after the first reading in the exam leaves, there will be a lot of content which you will not remember thoroughly, because it is about in the first revision, the second revision, where the things really start converting itself. It is like basically a seed. So when you put in the first 4 or 5 years, nothing comes out. So it will grow only exponentially, is what I feel. Because I still remember, portfolio management was completely new to me when I first read, because that is a formula based chapter. So when I finished classes, it was it was all good. But when I came into my exam days, when I did portfolio management, it looked pretty new to me. But then, but what happens is if you finish the classes, you will have a little understanding of what the subject is, and the time you will take to read the subject the next time will be a little less. If you're starting fresh, it might take a lot of time for you to even understand. But since you've watched the classes and okay, I know these are 10 chapters, these are the 12 chapters, you can plan it accordingly, and which chapter is more time consuming, which chapter is more or less time consuming, you can plan it accordingly. Because, see, the period is 2 years, so there are obviously chances any subject which you touch first will change, and you cannot take subject like tax, you cannot take a theory subject, because theory is something which you will have to eventually read in this 4 months only. So the balance is either FR or SFM. So obviously these subjects, you might end up forgetting a lot of things, but it will always stay in your subconscious mind is what I really feel.
In fact, I'm very happy to hear this answer, because I keep getting messages from students saying that I don't remember anything. And I think your words would act really well for them, because they'll also get that confidence, because students are normally not having that confidence at that stage, because when moment it looks new to them, they feel that okay, everything is gone, I need to prepare in detail now. So I'm very, very happy to hear the answer as well, and I think your experience will become a learning for many students, and they'll be happy to hear this from you. Good.
I mean, it is very natural for a human brain to not store things in the front end. It will obviously have some percentage in the back end. It's very normal. I'll tell you one more thing. Even after first reading, some of the subjects look very new for me again. I mean, the 50-60% of the subject really looked new for me. I mean, when the first revision goes in, and that is where you start remembering a lot of things, and that is where writing mock really helps you, because it is a very simple thing. You have 100 things around you. If I tell you to list down all the 100 things today, you will not be able to list, you will miss it. But if I tell you the particular thing is there near you, you might say yes or no. Because of the vastness of the syllabus, there's a definite feel that you are going to lose. You feel that you don't remember a lot of things, because now you're looking at a lot of things. But if I specifically ask you something which is going to be the case of exam, you might end up answering it 95% of the time.
Understood. And in fact, as I heard from you that you did your classes, did that 4 months of preparation, and then during this preparation time, the articleship exposure which you got. In fact, this was a question from one of the students. They wanted to know, did your experience of articleship help somewhere in writing your exams in the 8 papers? Did it help you, or did it help you in answering some of the difficult questions, or something which would have suddenly come up in exams? How was that experience finally useful?
Okay. See, first of all, I would tell 2 things. CA Finance is a vast subject, so despite you doing articleship from top size or any kind of firm, it would only help you certain. I wouldn't say, I'll be very honest on the fact that it is not going to help you 80-90%, because approaching exams is different, articleship is different. But yes, my articleship did help me in few of the subjects. I would specifically quote financial reporting and indirect taxes. It really helped me, because I worked towards those subjects. So it was easier, because when I was doing my articleship, I in fact ended up reading a lot of bare text of a lot of indices. And when I was doing my articleship, I also was onto a lot of GST side as well. So things were a little easy for me to grasp. Yes, but at the end of the day, to write what is required in exams would require to have an exam-oriented perspective. So, I mean, articleship would help you in only getting an understanding faster. But to have an output which is required in the exam, I think that has to be only done through the 4 months of preparation is what I feel.
But I also personally feel that articleship does prepare you well for your post-exam experience, because the exposure which you get there, I think during interviews and other places, it does play a big part. Great. And
I think articleship helps you to make you sit for 10-12 hours is what I feel.
Great. It makes you mentally prepared, saying that you can put in those time.
Yeah.
And in fact, there are few questions on the theory papers. How do you manage theory papers like law, audit, where sometimes ICA expects you to answer exactly similar words? And how does a student prepare for the objective type questions in the theory paper? So how did you go about these 2 things?
So as far as the descriptive part of the theory is concerned, I ensured there are 2 types of one where you have an application-based theory like law, where you need to have an understanding of the provision. You need not really mug up or cram the whole provision and then write, because once you have an understanding of how the provision or how the law works, then you can actually answer those questions. And there are theories like somewhere in, if at all not SCMP or audit, there are some very genuine theory questions where you need to have an understanding, as well as you need to remember what is written in the theory, because obviously there are some places where institute marks on keywords only because they don't read the full question. So what happens, so I take the case of audit, which is a more theory oriented subject. What I used to do is I ensured that since audit was a little difficult for me in intermediate as well, I made sure I'm studying audit every single day at least for 2 hours. If audit was there in my schedule, I used to study it separately. Apart from that, I used to cover 1.5 hour, especially for standards on auditing. And for subjects like SCMP, what I did was I made sure I made notes or charts, so that what happens is that when you just read your own written language, you feel more confident about it. There's a difference between reading a book and reading
your own notes
which you have written. You feel, yeah. So it's like, okay, you have written this. Since you've written this, while you're reading, while writing itself, there's a one conscious revision that is going on. And while reading it, you'll obviously, okay, because this is your handwriting, you'll feel more comfortable reading it. So what you can do for theories, for subjects, you can always try to read it daily, because on daily basis you can do and break it like daily 2 hours, so that it wouldn't look big also. I mean, like 2 hours is a very small time which you can, instead of reading 4 hours every alternative days, you can read 2 hours every single day, because now you're breaking down the whole subject. And secondly, you can make your notes or charts for some particular topics where you feel it's difficult, because charts give you a visual memory. Okay, this is what I had written, so that you'll be able to recollect it faster. But I think cumulative revision is what you should need to do for theory subjects, because I mean, for objective, what you can do is you can always practice the ICI's material which they have given. It's fairly good material. They have under 200 odd questions for each description, so you can always try that, because with your base theory is very good. You can end up answering all the questions. So, and one more thing for theories, don't do selective studies. Don't go based on ABC analysis, because our attempt did prove to say that ABC will not work did not work. I still remember SFM Forex really came for a meager portion. They asked more of from mutual funds, which we were expecting from derivatives. Derivatives did not turn up a lot in the exam. One C category base is 108. It came up for 16 marks. So, I mean, don't try this permutation combination is what I would say, even for theory subject, because I see a lot of people leaving some theory portion. I mean, that is not really advisable unless you're really, really short on time, but it is advisable to go to study everything to cumulative revision, because when you break it down smallly, you will feel, okay, abhi 2 घंटा ही पढ़ना है, you need to study only for 2 hours or 1.5 hours. The mental baggage will go away from you.
Great, great. In fact, there was a question related to this. Should a student prepare for 80 marks or 100 marks? A student asked me, saying that you said selective preparation is not required, but there are few areas which becomes very complex for a student. For example, in SFM, some student does ask us, can I leave derivatives? My standard reply is no, but how did you go about? Was there any place where you felt that selective preparation could be done? Was there any subject where you did this?
I wouldn't say for selective preparation as far as I'm concerned. Except for direct tax, there is an international taxation portion. It's like the BPS MTC. I won't say I left it. I did not revise it like 3 times. I just revised it once before the exam. That is all I did. Apart from that, I don't remember any particular thing which I did left, because I feel, institute can pick anything and ask you. So prepare for 120 because you have 6 questions. So I would say prepare for 120. So I mean, I think before writing SFM or before going into, I was like, we'll attend all the 6 questions. But the paper came very lengthy this time, and it was also fairly new. But it was a little difficult even for me to finish 5 questions at a time. Right? My standard objective would be to go and write 100 marks, because if you write 100 marks, expect a error margin of 15 to
sorry, Kalpesh, we lost you in between. There was some net connectivity issue at my end. So you were advising me on that selective preparation, where for SFM you were saying that you tried for 120 marks. Maybe you can just repeat it for the viewers.
So the mindset before I was giving my SFM exam was, let's attend for 120 marks. Let's write all the 6 questions. I was thinking But even because I think SFM is the only paper which I felt among 8 you can write the 60. Because some questions in SFM you can finish it faster than the allotted time. Is what I felt, but the papers were lengthy, so I ended up only writing 5 questions. So, but your initial aim is to write 800 out of 800 when you're appearing for CA final examinations, because see, whenever you write in paper, you have to understand there's going to be an error margin of 10 to 15%, either from your side or from the examiner or somewhere around. So that is something you keep it aside as a buffer. So like when you write, so whenever I wrote for 100, even if the answer was correct, I used to only give 60 to 70% of credit for that mark. I ensure, because I know in whatever you write could not be 100% true at every stage. So the thing, when you're writing only 80 marks, the chances of you getting an exemption in that subject will drastically reduce. So my humble advice would be to obviously go for 100 marks, give your best 100, and I think you will obviously see the results, because even a single mark or 2 marks makes a lot of difference in examinations like CA.
In fact, one point which you were touching upon, saying that 10 to 15% will anyway go off, whether it's your mistake or ICA's mistake or the examiner, because this is a question which many students keep asking, that I feel the answer is right but ICA is not. So did you go through that thought process also, saying that I feel this is more logical answer but ICA has not awarded me the marks, or ICA will not be awarding marks? Did you worry about that, or you were thinking 85 is in my control, let me think about 85 rather than that 10-15 which...
Yeah, I was, so very simple. So for things where ICA had a specific pattern of giving the answer, irrespective of how illogical it was, I ensured I wrote as per ICA, because at the end of the day, you need to clear that examination and you need not prove your merit to them. So for where ICA had given a specific pattern of answer, I wrote as per ICI. But where there was a little confusion, so I ensured that I gave my assumptions. I wrote alternative answers. In fact, there was a question in SFM. It was like, I have this money, I want it for investment after 6 months. I did not know whether it is in the starting 6 months or it is after the end of 6 months. So I wrote for both the things and I actually came out, because I was not pretty sure. So all these places you will have to play, if you have time, you have to play little smart, give both the answers. If you still feel there is a difference between your answer and ICA answer, I would try to go ICA's answer for the examination perspective. I mean, that it might be sounding a little illogical, but you have no other real option over there. So think what is under your control. I think 90% of the cases
things are fine. Yeah, 90% it is fine.
Yeah, so let's focus on that. And in case the 10% you go by ICAs is what I will tell you.
Perfect. And one question on the practical paper. There is a question which came saying that whether a student should focus more on conceptual clarity or practice of problems, or how does he balance both? So what did you do? Did you keep on solving so many questions, or only focused on clarity aspect?
So I think this question is more relevant, I think, for all the practical papers. So I mean, see what happens in the first reading when you give, your focus should be on both getting a conceptual clarity and practicing a lot of sums, because at the end of the day you need to understand that when the first time you're practicing all the sums, you will not get to practice them at the 1.5 days. So only when you practice a lot of all the questions, you will be able to cherry pick those questions which are difficult, which has unique adjustment, which you are making mistakes. Okay, so if you're going to leave out sums in the very first reading, then you will not even know what is actually there in the chapter. So I would say the first reading should be more about both practical in practice in the lot of questions, and number 2 it should be on concept clarity. Once you get a concept clarity, the first and second revision should be about churning out those important questions alone and revising the concept. So that is how I entered. First reading I gave it very patiently. I solved almost all the questions. From there, I struck off those questions which I felt easy I could do, and specifically marked those questions where there were adjustments or which I could not solve it in the very first go. And then second time, what I used to do, I just used to brush up on the concepts in practical subjects. I used to solve those questions which were difficult or which were long or which were unique in the first reading. So that is how I balanced. And from the first reading also, I struck off lot of questions. Then the second reading, second revision which I did, I ensured I had a set of questions. And from there, I made a cumulative 120 to 140 questions which I was going to solve on 1.5 days.
Great. And as you were saying that practice is critical, at some stage practice is critical. How critical is ICA study material for this? Did you prepare, use ICA study material for all subjects, or it was only the reference material which you were referring?
No, it was ICA study material for all the subjects except for direct taxes. Direct taxes I refer to an author's material. So what I used to do is for theory subject, I went blindly on ICA study material because I know for a fact that if theory also were used by some other author, it will be based on ICA study mat only. So it could not come out of ICA study mat. And for practical subject, what I did, the questions I solved in ISM, I used to take a one author for the subject. I used to just cross-reference which questions are not there in the theory, which questions are not there in the ISM. I mean, it could be a compilation of past questions or RTPs, MTPs. For example, I'll give the example of SFM. SFM, what I did, I used to take a subject, say Forex. There will be around 50 questions. So Forex, I first solved all the questions from ISM. Then these 50 questions I mapped in your material, your workbook, and I only did those questions that are not there in ISM. So by this, so I just made sure I reference the ISM with the author's book for practical subject, because somewhere I felt in ISM the number of questions were a little less in the ISM. So I ensured that I had a compilation of a particular book where I could cross-reference the questions which are not there in the ISM. So that is how I made sure. But the base text used to be very much ISM. Ensure that I put a lot of focus on.
Great. I think I have just two more questions. We have already run very long. Two more questions. One is, how did you manage distractions, be it mobile distractions, friends, relatives, social gatherings? So how did you manage this? Not during the 2-year journey, but specifically over the last 4 months. So how did you manage this aspect of distraction? And in fact, a doubt which has come from some student of ours is saying that I am prepared to study. I start studying, I lose confidence. I leave it. I am stuck for something for 2-3 hours. I do something else. I'm not getting that motivation, not getting that fire to come back. So how did you manage this?
So yeah, so as far as the social gatherings is concerned, either I'll have to look out. So I'll either hang out with my friends or it's going to be relatives. So my parents made sure that I was not disturbed from that particular end. All my relatives did not really come. Even if they would come, they ensured that I was not getting disturbed. So from that end, my parents really helped me a lot. So I was not getting distracted. As far as friends are concerned, I think I really had supportive people who understood, okay, fine, this guy is studying, let's not disturb him. So even in the social media or anything, I just took a step behind. I told them I'll not be available for the next 4 months. You can drop a text in case if something is very urgent. So I was not there in touch with them. And social media also, I was there on WhatsApp, Twitter and Telegram. I was there in a more hibernated mode. So I used to just come on WhatsApp. I think my phone was in do not disturb mode, so no notification even used to come, even if I used to switch on mobile data. Because WhatsApp, I was just connected to one of my friends who are also giving exams, and my parents, I was just connected with them. But apart from that, I did not extensively use WhatsApp. I archived all the major groups to be very in specific detail, so it had a very limited use. Twitter, I used to just scroll at the end of the day to see what is happening outside the world, so that we get just let's not lose touch. And Telegram, obviously, for all the official notifications, any updates, any revisions coming in. So it's a limited use. And as far as the setbacks are concerned, obviously, one thing you'll have to understand is you have to put the initial first 3-4 weeks is going to be difficult. You might get stuck a lot. You might have a lot of doubt, but stick to the process. I mean, have faith in yourself. Be positive. Have faith. Have a lot of faith in yourself. You can very much do it yourself, because yes, there might be things which you might try reading 3 or 4 times if you're not able to really get what you cannot understand. So what I would give a suggestion is to keep the thing aside, finish all your other tasks, then do the particular task which you feel it is left out. Because if you just keep sticking to it for a longer period of time, then your other tasks you will not end up completing it. So you can keep this task aside or this particular chapter aside. You can finish all the other things for the day, and then come. And I think then it will look very easier, because for 2 reasons now, you have distracted yourself from that topic, and you will not have the burden of thinking that, oh, my portion is left. So one thing you can do, if you feel distracted or if you are not able to understand a particular chapter for a long period of time, you can just keep it aside for the time being, finish everything else and come back. And as far as motivation is concerned, I personally believe it should come within you. So what really should keep going is very simple thing. Do you really want to study these books for next again in another attempt for 4 months? So that should keep your motivation. Number 2, just visualize one simple thing. When your parent sees the 2 words pass when your result pops up, and the happiness they'll give. So I think that was the only thing. I think the fear of not studying these books for other time was the only thing that kept me really going, because I did not want to study these books, getting locked in a room for 4 months. So that I had that fear that I can't do this another time, because same thing happened with me in intermediate, so I was not ready for it again. So that kept me really going.
No, you will believe it or not, this is the exact motivation I had when I was doing my CA exam, that I don't want to study these books again.
Okay.
So though I'm in teaching field at this time, but I didn't want to study the books again. That was very clear in my mind, who will go through these set of books again and again. Great.
Yeah, so it was very difficult for me to think even that what if I get to study these books again.
Great. I think I had one more question I thought, but two more questions. What combination of theory and practical did you do? Did you do combination of theory and practical when you were doing your preparation, or it was only one subject at a time for the first reading?
So I went with a combination of having 3 subjects a day.
Okay.
Preferably, I went with 3 subjects. So morning used to be my practical subject, because I know that it takes a little time for me to get into the zone. Then the second session would technically be a theory subject for me, so like on audit or SCMP, because I know post 10 o'clock would be my active session, because I knew when I get up, if I start writing something, I will not feel sleepy. So it used to be a practical theory, then it used to be a practical subject. I used to do 3 subjects, or even at the end of the night, I used to do a subject like law or direct tax, where it used to be an application of both theory and practical questions. So I initially even took 4 subjects or 3 subjects also a day. I was never a person who could just go with 1 subject or 2 subjects a day, but that's a very individual choice you can make, I think, from your end. But have at least 2 subjects a day, because you might feel stagnated is what I felt, but again, it's a very personal choice. From your end.
Even in your second and third reading, I believe it would have been 1 subject only, or second reading, third reading, was it combination of subjects, or how is it?
Yeah, so it was still a combination.
Okay.
I did not actually I could not go on for a subject for longer. So in third reading used to be 2 subjects. Till the second reading used to be 3 or 4 subjects a day.
Great. I think last question from my side, and you will have to give me what is that unique factor which has given you this AIR2. You will have to tell me, because I have heard your full story. I understood what you went through, but what is that unique factor which other students are not able to do? Because this is something which people have asked me, that what is unique with rank holders?
I mean, there is specifically nothing unique with any rank holders, is what I personally believed. But something which unique was, people had an expectation that I'll pass. But no one thought that I will end up getting a single digit rank. So the pressure was off by that side. One unique thing was, I had the mindset, even before I was going into my exam preparation leave, 2 months before, I started worrying a lot. From January to April, I need to study 9 to 10 hours for 4 months. I was mentally prepared for doing that. So from the first day to the 120th day, you will never see me that I would have not studied. Every single day I used to study for 9 to 10, eventually it popped up to 11, 12 during the exams when it were nearby. But there would be only 2 days when I really got sick, I could not study. Apart from those 2 days, there were not a single day where I did not end up studying. I ended up studying the exact same amount of hours, or around similar kind of hours. I think that I feel is the real cause of my success, because I was repeating what I was doing every single day till 120 days, ended up, and the 17 exam days which I did. So I think consistency is what really played in my favor. I really genuinely feel that, because at the end of the day, when you have a process, you just don't focus on the result, just work through the process. I think result is just an outcome which eventually you will get.
I think, Kalpesh, whatever I've heard from you, consistency is really there, but I think you did an excellent planning. We keep saying that planning is very critical, but as you said, you were doing backward calculation as to how many days you need to study. You planned your classes on time, you completed that, and then you said 2 months I'll do my first reading. The third month, I think this is what I could gather from you, saying that the planning aspect which you did with your consistent hard work, I think it did give great results, and I think you're going to have a great bright future ahead. So what are the future plans? So what are you?
So I'm pretty open to exploring the options which I have right now, because there's no fixed domain which I've really fixated in my mind, because I think as a chartered accountant, young chartered accountant, you will have to look at a lot of options, because today the world is growing and you will definitely have a lot of roles which you think were not really available few years back. So I want to really look into each job profile, the description of what the content of the job is, and understand if I'm really interested in that particular direction. So once over the next 2-3 years, if I figure out this is the domain I want to be in, and then is where I take a call, let's do it for the next 10 or 20 years.
Great. I think we wish you all the best, and I think thanks for your time. It was great having you here, and wish you all the best for a bright future ahead, Kalpesh. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.